Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Modern Customer Podcast. I'm your host, Blake Morgan. Today, my guest is Brad Cleveland. He is the founder of ICMI. He's also a consultant, keynote speaker, course instructor at LinkedIn, and author of a couple of different books, including Leading the Customer Experience and Contact Center on Fast Forward. We are talking about the contact center, and he has a wealth of experience doing contact center consulting and customer experience projects for companies like American Express, Apple, USAA, University of California, governments in the US, Canada, and Australia. We are talking about the future of the contact center, how AI is transforming the contact center, and what contact center leaders need to be thinking about as they try and raise more money for their programs. Please enjoy Brad Cleveland. Brad, welcome to the Modern Customer Podcast, all the way from beautiful San Diego. You have been such an influencer in the space. You created ICMI with your colleague and sold it. So you've really seen the conversation around customer experience just transform and explode. What is it that drew you to the topic of contact centers, and how is it still exciting now that things are changing so much?
Yeah, so thanks so much, Blake. Really great to be with you, and I love the podcast, so thank you. I have really enjoyed contact centers from the beginning, but I didn't even realize it at the time. It was kind of dumb luck. So I started working in and around contact centers very early in my career, and I met Gordon McPherson Jr., who would become my business partner at a conference, and we ended up writing an article together on contact centers, contact center management. And this was back in the 80s when I'm dating myself here a little bit, when these principles just really weren't documented. A lot of them were yet to be discovered. We started writing about it, and the more I wrote about it, the more I spent time in contact centers, and the more I saw how impactful they are, the more excited I got. So it's kind of one thing leading to another.
Yeah, absolutely. I know the contact center, I think because of social media and because customers started talking about their experiences, companies started to up their game. And now it's just a completely different story. What are some of the common questions you're getting now around how to set up and manage a contact center that you just weren't seeing before?
Yeah, well, a big topic is AI. Where's that going? What's it going to do for us? Is it going to displace contact centers? Is it going to displace our team? Is it going to, create new channels, new work? So that's a huge question right now for a lot of organizations. Everybody's looking at their customer access strategy, which sounds like consultant speak, that term, but it's simply, who are our customers? Why do they need help? What channels make sense for those things that are coming up? Who or what technologies, what human resources are best to handle those interactions? So thinking through that strategy, that's a big question right now. And getting and keeping the right team. It is a huge topic today. It was a huge topic 30 years ago. It's going to be a huge topic 30 years from now. One of those evergreen. How do we get the right people in place and really enable them to be their best, and so that our brand shines through.
Are there any clients or companies that come to mind when you think of companies that have been able to retain agents and create a really customer-centric culture?
That's a great question. We were working with some insurance organizations and finance and others that have some long timers. You go into USAA, and I know they're often mentioned, but there's a reason. Their values are unchanging. Their commitment is unchanging, and they really strike a chord with their team. They want to be a part of delivering those services. We're working with some healthcare providers. Same thing. They're seeing all the change in this space. They feel a strong calling. There's some long timers there. So we definitely see contact centers that have a lot of experience in their ranks. And then you hear the benchmark reports about the turnover rates being, these huge numbers, and it really depends on your values, the services you're providing, and how well you're pulling your team into that opportunity.
Absolutely. And what do you think is different at the leadership level of these companies like USAA that put the proper resources toward the contact center? What is it that the leaders do differently?
Well, they have a long-term perspective and they know who they're serving. They they have a strong commitment to being there for those they are serving, and really keeping their eye on that focus on that mission. Focus on every part of their operation on that mission, and that anyone can do that. You can be a technology startup. You can be a government agency that's been around for a long time. Who are you serving,
Hmm.
and what should that look like? Keep your eye on the prize.
One of the things I've noticed, Brad, about contact center executives is that they struggle to show how they're saving their company money or making their company money. And because they struggle with this, they have trouble getting more resources. And the contact center never really performs at the level that many practitioners would like to see it. What advice do you have for our listeners that really need to start thinking about ROI and showing that what they're doing, their customer centric efforts, are saving the company money and making the company money?
Yeah. I always think of a simple model. There are three levels of value on which contact centers can, which they can create value. These three levels, right? So efficiency is the first. We've got work, handle it efficiently. A second level is customer loyalty, customer satisfaction, customer loyalty. If we do a good job handling that work, they're going to be like, "Wow, this is great. Thank you." They'll tell their friends and neighbors about it. A third level is strategic, meaning what are we learning as we handle this work that can help our organization innovate? That is so powerful because we're also over surveyed. There's just no other better way to get insight on what customers need and want than to capture those real conversations, real time conversations, and share that across the organization. So I would start there. Are we creating that value and then showing what that looks like?
Mhm.
I use this example often, but I did some work for a consumer products company who had a customer service center that wasn't getting the funding they need. Their turnover was really high. Uh, there was a team there that was very demoralized. And we talked through this the first morning, hey, what value do you guys create? I remember one guy had his arms folded, is like, we handle gripes all day. I'm
Mhm.
not sure how valuable that is.
Mhm.
And that was like a challenge to their team. Like, how can we make this more valuable? And they started analyzing their work and found that 11% of the contacts they were getting on one of their spray cleaning products was because the cap was hard to remove. So you'd force it off and shear off the nozzle all too often, and then it wouldn't work. So customers would call to complain. They took that data to their packaging supplier who redesigned the cap, and those contacts went away. They're like, whoa. Now that's way more cost effective, right? To have a product that's working better.
Mhm.
They today are involved in marketing, research and development. They've inspired a new product line based on what they're hearing. That's top and bottom line impact. So go for all three levels of value and show how you're impacting that strategic level.
Absolutely. I love that. It seems like companies need to slow down though enough to even look at the feedback. Companies seem to be putting out so many fires, they don't even slow down to look at what customers saying, and the leaders don't, which I think I have this saying that leaders need to flip burgers next to employees so they know exactly what's going on. And so few leaders, it seems, want to do this. They don't want to get out of their office and look at the qualitative data as well by being with employees on the front lines.
That, Blake, is exactly my advice. We've got so many leadership teams that are just glazed over looking at these metrics, looking at the high level report. Get out there and see what's really happening.
Yeah.
What's behind the numbers. And it's so enlightening. Get out there and handle some of that work. Or if you're not every leader feels comfortable with that. I get that. These contacts are more complex all the time, but sit next to your team and hear and observe things firsthand. It's so powerful.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's so important to actually see for yourself. And like what you're saying, share that content out. You do a lot of contact center management with just regard to staffing levels. I've seen some kind of calculator on your website. Tell us about some of the tools that you've created and what they do, how they help.
Yeah, so that calculator you're referring to is based on the classic formula Erlang C, which has been around since 1917. It's developed by a Danish mathematician. It's in worldwide use today for not just contact centers, but really any environment that has queues that they have to manage and resource. The alternative is computer simulation, which you can get very sophisticated if we've got skills-based routing and multi-site operations and that sort of thing. But this little calculator is to show the basics. So if you have this workload, here's how many people you need for it. Here's the supporting resources you need for it. And it's an education tool as much as anything.
Okay. And you mentioned a word that I really wasn't familiar with. Like it wasn't single sign-on, but it was something else. Like, could you just describe the contact center jargon you just spoke of for people that might not be familiar?
Oh, sorry, skills-based routing, was that
There
the term?
skills-based routing, but there was another one that in there. But we can come back to that later if we either of us remember. But basically, the contact center has its own jargon and language. It's been managed for a long time the same way. Now the contact center is increasingly being run by the CMO. I like the example of Petco. And at Petco, the chief customer officer actually manages the chief marketing officer, which I find really interesting. Have you seen the contact center roll up into the CMO increasingly, and has that changed the scope?
Yeah, we see contact centers roll up into a lot of different parts of the organization. There's no one real standout trend. It really depends on the industry. But yes, that is something we see, and we think it's exciting when marketing and the organizational wide focus on customer experience becomes the place that contact center services live and get their funding from and report to. We think that's a really strong way to go at this.
So, one of the clients I believe you've worked with is Apple. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so Apple I struggle with. I just would be curious to hear your perspective because I find them to be have amazing products, but when I look at the journey mapping of the customer experience lately, I've run into some walls where I just can't believe the journey. For me, I just feel like it's not customer centric at Apple. Would you say, like, what was your experience working with them and what did you help them with?
Yeah, my work with them has been around some fairly specific projects like leadership training in different
Mm.
seasons, working with some aspects of their customer access strategy and how do you resource it right and that sort of thing. So Apple would have to, would have to answer that specifically what they're doing today. But I will tell you this: they're growing. Their product line continues to grow. It becomes more complex. Customer needs are becoming more complex. There's so many interfaces with other applications and devices and that sort of thing that it is a challenging space. And as with any organization, they've got to continue to work very hard to make sure they get it right. And not every experience is terrific. They're going to be the first to say that, and they sure want to learn from that and get better.
All right, so I have direct feedback for them if you ever want some.
I know that appreciate it.
Yeah. So let's talk about the future of contact centers and AI. Everyone is uncertain about AI. Will it replace jobs? Will it not? Will it help? Will it not? What are your ideas on how AI will play a role in the contact center of the future?
Yeah, if I can tell a quick personal story, I remember back in the late '90s when the internet was reaching every home and business, and that was a real game changer by any measure. And I remember arriving at a hotel the night before, working with a client, doing a workshop the next day, and I flipped on the TV to get some news. The World Economic Forum was going on at Davos, and they were interviewing different business leaders. And to a person, they said, "Run the other way as fast as you can," in various words, if you're in customer service, because the internet is going to displace a lot of what we need customer service for.
Hmm.
Exactly the opposite happened. it grew new services, new businesses, new channels, and service got so bad in the early 2000s that I have a file full of cover stories in these mainstream publications about how lousy service is. The same predictions happened around the smartphone the, in 2007, 2008, the machine learning, AI now, like we've got to be realistic. We've got to be clear eyed about, is it really going to displace resources one to one, or is it going to grow new services? Are we going to need to be there for new kinds of customer issues? So my advice is, don't believe the predictions. They've been wrong every step of the way. Get your customer access strategy out and think not in terms of concept, but specifically which customers will be impacted, how is AI playing a part in those experiences, in the needs that they're going to have in interacting with us. What is it doing as it works alongside of our agents internally? We've got to get specific. We can't just think in terms of these broad brushstrokes. I do not believe AI is going to displace contact center agents. It definitely is going to handle a bunch of the work that we've handled in the past. The transactional, simpler things. We will be handling more complex issues and the higher value issues. That's been a trend for 30 years, and I don't see that changing.
Interesting. So you keep saying, look at the access points, look at what your customer wants. How do you find out what your customer wants with AI? How will they know?
Well, we've got to have a whole bunch of ways to listen to them because AI is not going to know anything that the underlying data that's being fed into AI knows. So we've got to listen through every means that we have. Surveys, capturing customer insight during interactions, just having one-off conversations on different customers to get the real story. Certainly looking at operational data. AI can help us, analyze and collect and make sense out of that. It's very powerful, but it's not going to inherently just go out and tell us what our customers need. We've got to do some hard yards to make that happen.
What do you think are some of the most exciting potentials of AI in the contact center? What does it help with?
Processes internally are so complex in so many organizations. I've sat next to hundreds of agents in the last few years alone, virtually in some cases with the move to home, but seeing what they're going through and the screens they've got open
Right.
and
Right.
the gyrations they have to go through to get this data from this screen over to that screen and do this and pull
Yes.
in that. And
Yes.
it is a mess. So I think that's super exciting. What AI can help us put together internally and automating a lot of the really, really laborious and challenging work, all while you're talking to a customer real time internally. So that's exciting. Some of the AI is always positioned as this customer facing. Always, not always, but it's often positioned as in contact centers as this customer facing, bots and that sort of thing. They can be very powerful, but it's the behind the scenes part of things that I'm so excited about.
Absolutely. And so, as far as the tech stack for something like that, like I know you produced this course about AI. Was the tech stack something you talked about at all, or are you mostly talking about the
Didn't get real deep into
strategies?
Yeah, didn't get real deep into the tech part of it, other than to and we did go deep with this. Take your customer access strategy, specifically the components in your customer access strategy, and think through every aspect of how AI can help, where it might create new types of work, how to train your agents to work alongside AI and to be an advocate for AI tools with your customers. They need to know it as well as anyone. So we got very specific in the management side, not so much the technology behind the scenes side.
You think that's more important, like figuring out where you want to go, and the technology is much easier?
I do. I mean, the technology is so awesome. It's being developed by the day. There's a lot of There's a lot of funding going into AI. The whole chat generative AI, which has been out there for a year now, just really captured the world's imagination. There's so many great resources and great thinking and development going into the technology side, but we've got to use it then in our contact centers judiciously and in a way that supports our brand and in a way that serves and is fair to our customers in every sense of those terms. So yes, the management side is huge.
Absolutely. And what would you say to contact center agents that are worried that AI will displace their jobs, especially as AI becomes more emotionally intelligent?
A lot of the worry comes out of that conversation when they actually see it and experience it. And we not only want them to feel comfortable with it, we want them to help us develop it.
Right.
I mean, AI is this powerful colleague that is working alongside of us, and AI needs our help. AI needs our input. AI needs to understand our values and our customers and our direction. So our customer service agents are closest to our customers in that work, and they know it best. And they're an incredibly valuable resource in developing these new capabilities.
But do you think that the agents feel like they're developing something that will replace them?
I don't get that any more than with any of our jobs in any sector. If
Hmm.
you're a journalist, if you're a pilot, the self-flying taxis are a reality. Trying to work out airspace issues and some of the regulations, but right now you can there are air taxis that don't require pilots. They're
Hmm.
all flown, like self-driving cars. So you go into any industry, I think we're all wondering, are
Hmm.
we gonna be displaced by these capabilities in contact centers? I think the thinking is if if AI replaces all the jobs in the world, we're going to be the last ones standing because look at what we're handling.
Yeah,
I
there's
mean,
so
look
much.
look at what I'm doing today, working on today. Tell me how AI is going to just step in and do this.
Absolutely. No, that's a really good answer. Very, very thoughtful. I mean, there is so much dysfunction in the contact center. It also seems to be the last place to get funding. So, I mean, do you have any advice for those trying to get funding? I know I've asked you a few times, but like at a company like USAA, was it just easy for them to get the funding? Do executives just say yes very easily to the contact center?
It's easy to make the right decisions in any organization that has their values aligned with how they're going to serve their customers. They really understand their customers. These aren't tough calls when we really understand the impact of the contact center. So be it USAA or an organization like Zappos or Apple or anybody, the answer should be pretty easy. Support funding when we make that clear case and we really understand how it's going to impact our customers.
Yeah, something USAA has is that moments of truth, something like that, where they proactively reach out to the client if they know there's going to be a baby or they're moving, and very few companies do that.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, there's a Cathay Pacific in Taiwan
I just
is
flew
an
them in the
organization.
Philippines.
Okay, they reach out to customers proactively. There's some really cool examples in a number of different industries of organizations that are getting more proactive when they've got that relationship with their customer and really see their journey over their lifespan and how the organization can help support them.
Can I ask you what airline you generally fly?
So we go back and forth a lot between San Diego and Sun Valley, and so that means two different airlines, and so I'm really on any airline that has a direct.
Oh, okay.
So I'm on JetBlue this weekend. I fly Delta and United a lot. They've got good services out of both San Diego and Sun Valley. If it's overseas, I'll try to go direct, whoever that might be.
Okay, got it. So you're brave. So you're not handcuffed like me to a certain provider.
Well, I decided even all those points weren't getting me upgraded enough, so
Right? It's
I'm
hard.
throwing the towel and go direct.
Yeah, absolutely. Make your life easier. What do you love about this industry? You've worked in it for so long. What do you love and why do you keep coming back?
I love the feeling of knowing an organization has my back as a customer. And it buys me a lot of loyalty, and it even buys me some bandwidth when things go haywire. Delta is a great airline. I fly Delta a lot, to use an airline example again. They had some misses this past year. I kind
They
of
admitted
assumed,
it.
and they admitted it, and I kind of found myself as a customer giving them an out. All right, I'm going to give you a pass on that one because I know you're trying. So there's more margin. So I think my love of working in customer experience, customer service being a part of customer experience, and the contact center being a part of those larger umbrellas is that we can really make a difference. I mean,
Hmm.
we can. I know what that feels like. So I love to see organizations really inculcate those principles into their processes and their teams and their strategy, and so that it happens way more often than not.
Absolutely. I love that. I agree. I think it's an endlessly interesting topic because it really is just business. Customer experience is just business. But let's switch gears away from business and the contact center and let's get to know you a little bit more, Brad. Are you ready to take some rapid fire questions?
You bet, fire away.
Okay. What's the best and most important part of your morning routine?
uh, what I do the night before, which is I'm going to sound like a school kid here. I will lay out what I'm going to wear. Am I meeting clients, or is it just a heads down day of research? I will pack a lunch for my office. I eat way better if I do that than if I don't think about it. So my morning routine starts the night before.
Very good. Okay. Do you have a unique leadership hack that helped get you to where you are today?
I've kept a journal for 35 years, and if anyone listening hasn't, you can start now. It is so powerful to go back, and it's in my lousy handwriting, so it's always a bit of an expedition to look through, past years. But it is so enlightening to me to see what I was stressed about, what I wasn't stressed about, that maybe should have had more focus, and to pull those lessons into now.
What do you do to relax at the end of a hectic day?
Pretty boring. I love to read. I love to take a long walk.
What show are you currently watching on a streaming service like Netflix or Hulu or Amazon?
Outlander.
Okay. What's your idea of perfect happiness?
A hike in the mountains with Kirsten, my wife. No cell service. Pack a lunch. Enjoy
Love that.
enjoy the outdoors.
What's your favorite type of vacation?
I like a mix of active and then sit by the pool. So if it's I love historical places in the world and just learning more, and I love hiking and that sort of thing. But then I love to sit by the pool and just veg.
If you could have lunch with anyone dead or alive, who would it be?
Mm. My grandfather on my grandfather on my mom's side passed away before I was born, and he was supposed to be the most gentle, serving, selfless person, and didn't have much worldly wealth, but just incredible service to those around him, and person of great faith. I would love to have lunch with him.
If you had to describe your outlook in one quick motto, what would it be?
You are here to serve.
Very
And I
beautiful.
don't say that lightly. I was doing a keynote one time. The flights were late, and I got all of 2 hours sleep, and I showed up and the technology wasn't set up that morning, and people are filing in, and it's like anything that could delay this and go wrong has. And somehow it just came to me. You are here to serve, and
Hmm.
focus on that. Don't worry about anything else.
All right. Well, I think that's wonderful. And if people want to learn more about you and your books and your calculator and everything you do, where can they do that?
Bradcleveland.com. And I'm on LinkedIn, Brad Cleveland 1, or X, formerly Twitter, at Brad Cleveland.
All right, awesome. Well, Brad, this has been so fun. It's such a pleasure to meet you. Hopefully, you'll come back next year and tell us more, especially about the AI piece. I think my audience would just love to hear about what you're seeing over on your side. So, thanks for being here, and I'll see you next time.
Sounds great, Blake. Thank you so much. I love the work you're doing, and thanks for the invite.
Thank you, everybody. You've been tuning into the Modern Customer Podcast. Until next time.